and introducing the topic of low code because I want you guys to understand that you do not need tech in order to build a startup. So let's talk about high tech as a beginning of things. So when you talk about high tech, what you might imagine is this little gimmicky robot, Internet 4.0, Web3, and so forth kind of image, maybe a metaverse, like some really, really gimmicky high tech stuff, or this, or like robots, or the AI uprising, and how robots are going to control us, and ChatGPT is going to become so great that all of us are going to be out of jobs, and so forth. When you talk about high tech, you might imagine startups looking like this, like the Boston Dynamic dogs. You can imagine like this crazy science fiction things, or the Tesla cars, and you can think about computer vision and stuff that like looks like crazy, like self-driving cars. Um, Next slide. Come on, next slide. Or start like looking into the Amazon robots because this also looks quite high tech and like from another world, something that's not necessarily approachable. Or obviously flying cars. We had to include this in the high tech section. Obviously, when you think about science fiction, it's all of these crazy technologies that resemble Marvel movies and the Batmobile and so forth. It's obviously not very approachable. So I want to put this in context. When you look at all of these videos, it might seem unattainable. It might seem from a universe that's very far and very remote from you, from your context, from your world. And the first thing that I want to underline is that high tech does not equal startups. Um, you do not need high tech in order to build a startup. So I'm giving you this. This is the first slides of Airbnb back in, I don't even know, way back. This was their first pitch deck when they first started talking to investors. And this is the first pitch deck of Uber when they started as well talking to investors and raising money. What I want to point out here is that a startup might look like this, but it can also look like this. It can also be an Excel spreadsheet. So basically, Airbnb, when they first started, they did not have the tech service. They did not have the website. They did not have anything. They were doing everything manually or via phone. So you can start a startup or a business by just calling people up and you becoming the connector, or by logging everything to an Excel spreadsheet, providing a database, and so forth. A startup doesn't need tech to function at all. You can start from Excel, you can start from a Google document, you can start with a pen and paper and clients. So I'm gonna give you the intro, the what I've been told when I started looking into startup. I will pass it on to you. The YC, so the Y Combinator, the accelerator that I showed you a little bit earlier, very famously has the slogan called "Make something people want." It's very catchy, um, but it's also really, really important. There's no startup if there's no problem. There's no startup if you're building a product that no one needs and that no one wants. So if you don't want it, if you're not going to use it, if it's not useful to you, then it's not a startup. It's a side project, it's a hobby, it's a project, and so forth. Like it's not a business if no one wants it. So this is something that needs to stay with you. It's about communicating with yourself and communicating with others. So a startup might look like this. Reddit. Reddit is a startup. Reddit makes money. This is a startup. Revolut might be that in fintech. This is also a startup. It's about hardware. It's called Tilt 5. This is also can be part of, this is not actually a startup, but this can be part of a startup where you fabricate stuff with robots and you deal with hardware. So I want to highlight this again. A startup, it's about problems. It is not about buzzwords. It's not about um, how cool XR technology is. It's not about how cool robotics is. It's not about how amazing humanoid robots or ChatGPT might be. It's not about throwing buzzwords out. It's about finding real problems that help real people. So now this is just going to be a section of stock photos. A startup doesn't necessarily look like this, but it looks like this. Yes, stock photos of people. And the point of this is that a startup is about its people and is not science fiction. That's the basis of anything. It's not the technology. It's not how you build the technology. That matters, but later on. At its core, a startup, it's about community, society, and change. It's about the people that you build it for, the people that you build it with, and the people that you surround yourself with, and the people that you help. Because it goes from the first 2 or 3 people that you choose to be part of your team, and the symbiosis between those 2 people is either going to make or break a startup. Then it goes to your first clients, your early adopters, whose lives and processes you're going to change, to your wider audience of clients. And then eventually, when a startup scales and it goes to um, a, a scale that's so big that you can't even understand anymore, that's going to change industries and societies and the way in which people do things. So having a startup is it's very, very important for you to understand the human component. You can't have a startup if you don't think about that. So I want you guys to start thinking about this workshop from this point of view, and from the point of view where you create impact. So whatever you're going to choose to do through your research or whatever you're going to go during the next 24 hours until we meet tomorrow, I want it to be through this lens.